Hey there, guys and gals, all you hepcats, cool kittens, diesel-powered disciples of cool, our friends and foes. Welcome to the Dieselpunk podcast alive. I am your host, the comic book loving, time traveling prophet of pop culture, the voice of Dieselpunk, the artist also known as the shaman, the bamboozleist, Big Daddy Cool. You can call me Johnny, and I am coming to you live from the Casa de Cool in the Houdini game room, and joining me across the country from the frozen tundra of New England is the man, the myth, the legend from the Fedora Chronicles, Mr. Eric Fisk, the professional provocateur. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing all right. I'm just a little bit worried about my signal quality. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay. We have some thunderstorms rolling through here.
We can hear you great. There does seem to be a little bit of a delay. But we will live with it.
Okay.
Yeah, just a
smidge.
And also from Middle Tennessee.
I'll just keep my answer short.
Also from Middle Tennessee, we've got Dark Soul, the Destructor. And he is a destructor of hotel bathrooms. And Dark Soul, I'm not sure what kind of mask you're wearing, but that looks like a pretty heavy duty, no nonsense kind of mask there. Very good. And also from Middle Tennessee, from the Antioch, Smyrna area, pretty boy Corey Hillesheim, or as some of us like to call him, Sidney Brady. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. Just happy to be here.
We are happy that you are here too. So it's been about almost 3 weeks now since we've been together, and Larry is not going to be able to join us tonight. Larry Amyet is not feeling well, so he has bailed. But we wish you a speedy recovery, Larry, and we definitely miss you. Now, we got a couple of things that we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7. We're going to talk about some Rocketeer toys that are hitting shelves as we speak, and anything else that you guys want to talk about. But since Eric Fisk of the Fedora Chronicles is with us, we cannot pass up the opportunity to talk about the UFO phenomenon that happened this week and was so widely reported across the internet. Eric, you got any thoughts, any news, anything specific that you want to share with us about that?
It's like post Pantera.
Let me see here. Hold on a second. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay. Can you hear me any better? Okay.
Yeah.
I think. And also hear somebody talking in the background.
Oh, it's just my son Harrison. He's playing a video game. The only thing that I can tell you is that the video that I have actually shown on the Fedora Chronicles group page, a lot of people have come forward and they're actually speculating that those are actually Elon Musk's satellites, the string of satellites, Sky Chain or whatever it's called, and it's specifically for they're doing an experiment on low orbit satellites, satellites.
So they're muskies?
They're muskies.
I've seen those. That looks nothing like
sketchy. But
yeah,
I know that there's an in-joke there somewhere that I'm not familiar with. But the most exciting part about all of this that I think, as far as the UFO phenomenon is concerned, is that there have been a rash of UFO sightings all over Brazil, of all places. I guess maybe that because of the coronavirus, the aliens couldn't pay their rent or their mortgage on Area 51, so they've moved down south for the season. I'm not sure.
It's Carnival.
Also, a big it's Carnival. So the Grays have moved down to Carnival for the season. But the other big news that
The
we're
pasties
also
work well
covering,
with them.
that I bet. I wouldn't mind seeing that after a couple of shots of tequila. Don't tell my beautiful bride I said that. We're not recording, are we, Johnny?
Oh, yes, we are.
But, oh, somebody's going to send a link to her.
I started
the
a watch
biggest
party.
news of the biggest news of the year so far is that the Pentagon has actually released a couple of press statements saying that, why, yes, indeed, there are UFOs, but nobody cares because we're in quarantine and we have other things to worry about. Like, how are we going to pay the rent and mortgage since nobody's able to go to school or go to work and make a living? So, but I mean, other than that, it's been a slow news week. Back to you, John.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This has nothing to do with Dieselpunk necessarily, although the like most significant alien crash report happened during the Diesel era in was it 1949 in Roswell? But but since Eric is here and Eric's Fedora Chronicles website deals with these things, I thought it only appropriate to give him a platform to talk about it. And I am like so passionate about UFO phenomenon and cryptozoology. So anytime I have a chance to talk about it, I'm going to. And I got to tell you, I don't think those were low orbit satellites. There's no such thing.
No,
low orbit satellites.
That's what I've heard. That's
disappear.
Yeah, that's the official story.
I know that's an explanation that someone wants to give us that are doubters, but satellites don't vanish, and new satellites just appear in different places. I've watched that video over and over, and one friend said that they were parachute flares. Well, parachute flares drop. They don't stay in one place. Right. They don't go up and down. So that I'm not buying that explanation. And usually the simplest, most direct explanation is the truth. And I'm going to say that was a formation of some unidentified aircraft or spacecraft.
And they got the hell out of here.
Right. No, John, they're literally UFOs. They're literally unidentified flying objects.
Sure.
Literally UFOs. That's the very definition of UFOs. Now, whether or not they come from another dimension, whether they come from another planet, maybe they come out from there's swamp gas from Dark Soul's butt after a night of Mexican food. It could be that. There's also a Audible just released an audio book version of J. Allen Hyatt's book, coincidentally called the UFO book. He talks about Project Blue Book, and for decades, when he was one of the lead researchers for them, one of the things that he had run into is all the opposition from the U.S. government. And that every time that they had an actual UFO sighting that they could not explain, they always passed it off as, for many years, it was a weather balloon.
I think the aliens are messing with your voice.
It's probably because I'm actually not in New Hampshire. I'm actually in low orbit around Uranus looking for Klingons. But also the thing is that we're also having problems with our internet here in southern New Hampshire. I'm not
having any problem hearing you, Eric.
Okay. But
if I have problems hearing you, I will let you know.
Okay. So it looks like one of our buddies dropped out.
Yeah.
So
like that answer.
this has been a great year for ufologists. Unfortunately, everybody's stuck at home and can't do any real research except for being keyboard warriors on social media groups. So,
Well, that's funny that you keep saying that everybody is stuck at home,
right?
because here in Middle Tennessee,
Nope.
nobody cares anymore.
No.
Yeah.
We're pretty much free and free and loving it, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the quarantine is over. Now, do we want to get into the reason why the quarantine is over? Is that too political?
No, that is too political and not for this show. But we all have our own theories, and I'm sure some of our fans watching will post theirs. By the way, if you are watching us live, you can interact with us by posting a comment and asking a question about some of the things that we're talking about. It'll show up on the screen and we'll address it. It does appear that we've lost Dark Soul. His internet may have cut out, or he may have gotten a call from his wife.
Yeah, it happens.
And we all know what happens when that happens. So as we go along, you guys watching us live, feel free to interact. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe and post a comment as well. And that would be fantastic. And just let us know that you are watching, because Facebook doesn't tell us, or StreamYard that we're using doesn't tell us who is watching. So we need your help. Post a comment. Let us know that you are here. So, nothing. Robert is asking what happened. So I'm going to type to him in our Facebook group chat, you dropped. And there he is coming back. Yeah. So we're going to bring him back in. All right, Dark Soul, you are back. You dropped off. It's your internet, buddy. What's he looking at?
Oh, shall I look down?
I think that he's probably looking at his settings.
I don't know.
I can't see anything down here.
It also sounds like his his headset is not plugged in. It happens.
He's way behind. He's got a huge delay.
Yeah.
Or he's listening on the live feed. Dark Soul, can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right. So you are back. If you've got another device on, because we're getting an echo from your feed, turn down the sound or whatnot. Just make sure that everything's coming through your headset. All right. So let's talk Rocketeer. So
yes. I gotta get me one of those.
This little bad boy is the Diamond Select or Diamond Direct Select Rocketeer action figure. Now, this came out last fall in a big bubble pack, and it retails for about $65. And it comes with all of these accessories, this really cool base where it looks like he's blasting off, different hands, different costume configurations. However, the exact same figure this week started showing up at Walgreens. And this one I got at Walgreens for $17.
More my budget.
It is about a 5.5 inch. Yeah, it is about a 5.5 inch figure. Diamond Direct, Diamond Select. And there are a lot of other Diamond Select toys there. Some Godzilla things, a Voltron thing I saw, some cool stuff. But the Rocketeer, and now I've got two of them because my buddy Blake found the $65 one on sale at Great Escape in Nashville for $30. So now I've got two, one that's open and sitting on my desk in the Houdini room, and one that is on display elsewhere. Now,
Mint in box.
there's another new Rocketeer figure coming out from Funko. Funko does the Funko Pops. They also do mini mates, and there is a new Vin mate, what they call a Vin mate, which are the mini mates at 4-inch high. They're not articulated like the mini mates, but there is a Rocketeer Vin mate coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. And then Blake Wilson is watching. He says, Rocketeer! Blake Wilson was with me in Gatlinburg this weekend. We had a little trip with the League of Impossibilists. And while we were there, we went in the store just by happenstance because it was hot and the door was open, and we went in because it said vintage store. So we went in, the buckboard, and it really isn't a vintage store. It's like, a retro merchandise store. However, they have a ton of pops, Funko Pops. And I got Lobster Johnson. I didn't even know they made a Lobster Johnson pop. Now, if you guys don't know who Lobster Johnson is, he is one of the original Dieselpunk superheroes from the Hellboy comics. He started as a joke, as a backup feature, and then got his own series and became a serious Dieselpunk crime fighter. And then in the latest Hellboy movie, there's a whole middle section with Lobster Johnson in World War II that was phenomenal. It was the only good part of this latest Hellboy movie.
Yeah, I can't even
there
get
is
past
a
the beginning of that.
Funko Pop for Lobster Johnson fans out. Yeah, that movie is so bad.
Yeah.
And
We get
it's
about
such a
20
shame
minutes in
because,
and quit.
we could have had a Hellboy 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get to the scene with Lobster Johnson, you'll love it. It's awesome.
Let's try it again.
And Corey, it's everything that you love. Basically, and it'll make a lot of Hellboy fans kind of ticked off, though, because it's that scene where Hellboy is brought to Earth from the first Hellboy movie, but they've redone it, with the new characters and and creates a whole new mythology. And it just so happens Lobster Johnson was there at Hellboy's birth, which is not comics canon, by the way. And the fact that they redid that great opening sequence from Hellboy 1 really sucks. We could have had a really great Hellboy 3, but no.
Oh, yeah.
We had to get a reboot that was horrible. Anyway.
A reboot that nobody wanted.
So that's nobody wanted, nobody needed. And Del Toro was ready to do a third one.
I believe Ron Perlman.
I don't get it.
Oh, yeah. Ron Perlman's the only good Hellboy.
Yeah, and look, I had nothing against David Harbour. If David Harbour had played the part from the very beginning, great, all for it. But the way he did it, he was basically David Harbour imitating Ron Perlman playing Hellboy.
Yep.
And it just didn't work. We lost Dark Soul again. Hopefully he'll pop back in here.
Yeah.
So, Corey, let's talk about something interesting. Let's talk about you. How is your Dieselpunk cosplay build going?
Good. I'm gonna complete the arm this week if the wife lets me stop doing honeydew lists. I got my Thompson. We're ready to go. So we should once the arm's finished, I'm ready. It's there. Hopefully in the next week or so I can debut it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be epic.
For my
Awesome,
first attempt, we'll see.
awesome.
So I got to ask.
So,
you,
Eric,
if
what
I-
about you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
What about me? What am I working on right now?
What are you working on? What other stuff do you want to share? What good Dieselpunk news do you have for us? Oh, Deacon.
Well, I mean, what I have going on right now is that for various reasons, and we've spoken about this on an earlier episode of this podcast. I've sort of put steampunk aside. I spent about maybe a half an hour removing myself from about I think 25 to 30 groups. I've kind of it's gotten a little bit too political. Believe it or not. And for a genre that is supposed to be about retrofuturism, it's been bogged down by a lot of modern politics. And today I just quit. I just quit. I don't know if I want to make a non-political political statement. But you know that I wrote an article about 3 years ago, The Requiem of Steampunk, where I had basically explained what the problems were with steampunk. And I said, it's no longer a movement about repurposing old things. It's become very partisan and very partisan politics, and talking very much about what's going on in the 2020 political scene. And I'm not spending that much time with it anymore. And I've really my new passion is true crime. I'm doing true crime episodes, which everybody in the Dieselpunk world knows that some of the best true crime stories came from Prohibition and the Great Depression. And that's
maybe
one of the reasons why I got started on.
Maybe the greatest crime story came out of the Diesel era, the murder of Black Delilah.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the greatest unsolved true crime stories. And I've been actually, the movie wasn't that great though. But I've been doing a lot of interviews with other true crime investigators and podcasters, and I've really been getting involved in helping missing person cases, helping, reaching out to families to come on True Crime One-on-One on the Fedora Chronicles and talking about their cases. And I have 6 episodes under my belt right now, and people are coming forward and saying, let me tell the story of my missing loved one. And it's sort of given me, not only has it given me a new lease on life, but it's also given me a new perspective on what's going on in the world. Now, I still have the paranormal, unexplained phenomenons. I'm no longer calling conspiracy theories because we're beyond that now. We're now in the realm of conspiracy fact. So I'm talking about government conspiracies and cover-ups because they're not theories anymore. They're current events.
So here's my question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about, government cover-ups and whatnot, how many black SUVs have shown up across the street from your house?
It's funny because we have a brand new house being built in the field across the street where I live. None of them are black, but all of them are white. So, I have not. It's been a while since anybody has sort of harassed me about what I've said on the internet. Mostly because one of the things that I've really sort of moved on to is helping people solve, unsolved abduction cases. And for whatever reason, the NSA doesn't seem that interested in me anymore since I've sort of moved on to that. But I mean, I'm still doing stories about crazy things that the government is up to.
Very good. You wouldn't be you if you didn't. So we just had a comment from Josh Hines. Yo, 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 long time, first time. Ha, 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 ha.
That's my buddy Josh.
Oh, well, welcome, Josh.
Yeah.
Glad you are with us. And for those of you, I forgot to put this up here that Blake said, Rocketeer. I said he said it, but I didn't put it up there.
Yep.
So as you guys come on, and if you have comments, let us see them. So, so Eric, that sounds really exciting that
It really
you
is.
are doing the true crime thing. And let me just say too, I know that you're still doing some of the paranormal stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, my life has become very deeply entrenched in a lot of paranormal stuff over the last year. And if you know anyone who needs someone to come on and be a guest and talk about some real life stuff,
Ooh,
I
I've
would
actually been
be
saving.
glad to do it.
I would love to have the two of you. I've actually been saving you two for my birthday as a special treat for myself on my 51st birthday.
Oh, cool.
So I do think that you guys have to come on the show and talk about the experiences in Nashville. I cannot tell you how many people have said to me their city is haunted, but the most people who come on and say their city is haunted, it's like the four corners: Boston, Nashville, New Orleans,
Yeah.
and San Francisco. For some reason, I don't get a lot of my city is haunted stories from Los Angeles as much as you think that you would. But yeah, those bone chilling stories coming out, and of course, I've had some experiences myself with the unexplained, like the case of the missing whiskey case. Like, where'd it go? Where did all these empty bottles come from? But I just,
Well, while we've been talking about that, believe it or not, twice out of the corner of my eye, I'm sitting in front of the window on the second floor. I have seen kind of this white mist pass by the window outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, Corey, but our house is built on the grounds of a former plantation.
No, I didn't know that. I can see it now, the way the area is laid out. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Are you sure it's not built? Yeah, I'm sorry, Corey.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's not built on a former plantation graveyard?
No, but some of the rumors that we've heard is that our neighborhood, our portion of the neighborhood, is built on the area where the slave quarters were.
Huh.
It's a little bit creepy. Yeah. Anyway, but we are not here to talk about ghost stories or the paranormal, or even
not tonight.
True crime and government conspiracies. We are here to talk about fictional crime in the form of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 1. Now, did you guys have a chance to check this out?
Nope.
Corey, you didn't do your homework.
I know. I've been so busy. I'm sorry.
45 minutes. That's all I ask.
I got 5 kids. 5 minutes is tough to come by.
I hear you. What about you, Eric? Did you have a chance to catch it?
I will say this, John. I will say this episode. First, and you know that I love everything from the 30s and 40s, style-wise. I love the united front against fascism. You know that I love that stuff, and you know that how much I love things about fighting the greatest evil we've ever known, and the stories that came from that era. And I mean, the whole Prohibition period, fighting Nazi spies in North America. You know that I love all that, and one of the greatest thrills of my life in the last couple of months on Disney Plus is revisiting Agent Carter and being able to see all those episodes all over again for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you get to, like, you don't have to wait a week. You can actually just go get yourself a scotch and soda and then watch the next episode. And you get to see them in a different light and see where they were going until the series was abruptly cut off. I don't want to say any spoilers, but I do think that they are sort of opening up the door to bringing back Agent Carter on Disney Plus. I don't know why. It's a feeling that I have in the back of my head. I know that Haley Atwell isn't doing anything right now, except for waiting for the phone to ring from her agent saying we're on again. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think that this
and she has been talking about Peggy Carter a lot recently. She's appeared in several makings of and documentaries and Women of Marvel panels, and she's talking about Peggy Carter a lot. And before we dive into this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., she is reprising her role as Peggy Carter. Of course, she was in Endgame, but she is coming back to a Disney Plus series as Agent Carter on What If. Now, it's an animated show, but she is voicing the character, as is Chris Evans voicing Steve Rogers. And I can never remember his name. The guy who played Howard Stark on Agent Carter, Dominic. He is reprising his role as the voice of Howard Stark on What If. So I think you might be right, Eric, and there are some clues that lead me to believe that from this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Josh Hines says, "Oh, damn, never seen it." So I am going to assume that he means he's never seen any episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'll admit, I've never seen any episode.
What? Oh, my God. Okay, so this is going to be...
Agent Carter, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so probably, Corey, you were with a lot of fans when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out 7 seasons ago. That's mind-blowing. It's actually closer to 8 years because there was a long hiatus between season 5 and 6. But a lot of people were expecting Avengers Light, and that's what the show is. And so a lot of people were disappointed in it very early on. And the initial reviews from the fans that were expecting something that wasn't delivered turned off a lot of people who probably would have watched it to begin with, but they saw these reviews and friends saying, no, it's trash, don't bother with it, just never got into it. And I'm guessing you're probably in there somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. I mean, we've never... if I remember, we wanted to watch it, but by the time we remembered it was on, we were so far removed from it, or so far in the seasons, that we just never started watching, trying to catch up. But now that it's where it's at, I'm interested.
Well, and I've got some good news and I've got some bad news for you. The good news is season 7 kicks off in an epic way. Episode 1 is called The New Deal. And basically, I'm going to preface this with a lot of spoilers, okay? And some of these spoilers won't mean a thing to you, Corey, or to you either, Eric. I don't know. Eric, how many previous seasons have you seen?
Of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes.
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean,
so
either I've watched them, or it's been on in the background while I've been working.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with what's going on.
All right. So basically, this season has become timeless. And when I say timeless, the show, timeless. Here's the premise. At the end of season 6, something happened, and quite honestly, I don't remember how it happened, but they had to like do an emergency time travel trip and gone back in time to 1931. And it is 1931, and let's see what New York City, and the team has got to figure out what moment in time these Chronicons, who are an alien race, robotic alien race, the Chronicons, are going to undo something in history to erase S.H.I.E.L.D. And they don't know what it is, but they're trying to figure it out. And they're all of a sudden, everything leads to this event with the New York state of New York governor. And who was governor of New York in 1931? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And so their obvious assumption is that they're going to try to take Roosevelt out, because Roosevelt is the one who allocated the funds for the SSR and created what would become S.H.I.E.L.D. So they think, hey, if they abduct or assassinate Roosevelt, the SSR is never formed, S.H.I.E.L.D. will never be. But that's not the person that they're targeting. And the person they're targeting is a guy named, and this is a spoiler alert, Freddie Malik. And Freddie Malik is the grandfather of, the future father of Gideon Malik, who founded and would be later become one of the leaders of Hydra. So the Chronicom's thinking is, we take out Freddie Malik. He never forms Hydra. And if Hydra is never formed, then S.H.I.E.L.D. is never formed. And I know that that Robert, Dark Soul, and Larry were debating on our group chat about, well, how does that affect the origin from Captain America with the Red Skull? And this is where it's important for people who maybe have only seen Captain America, the First Avenger, and don't realize that there's a whole series or a whole season, maybe 2 seasons, Eric, that are dedicated, no, more than that, maybe 3 or 4 seasons that were dedicated to S.H.I.E.L.D., the history of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the demise of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there was a whole lot of material after season 1. Season 1, crossed over with Captain America Winter Soldier, with the whole revelation that S.H.I.E.L.D. had been infiltrated by Hydra from the very beginning, and yada, yada, yada. And so, Robert and Larry were like, well, how does this affect the origin of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the Red Skull? And what people don't remember is that the Red Skull didn't found S.H.I.E.L.D. or found Hydra. He took control of Hydra, but he didn't form it. He didn't found it. And in one of the later episodes, Gideon Malik even says, the Red Skull was a fool. He was a clown, and we were foolish to follow his lead and his ideals. And so this sets the stage for the foundation of Hydra. And now they've realized at the end of the episode, to save S.H.I.E.L.D., they got to save Hydra. Dun, dun, dun. And so this whole season is going to be traveling through time, starting in 1931 and probably going through the early 60s. So there's going to be a lot for Dieselpunks to really, really love and to sink their teeth into with this series. Unfortunately, pretty boy Corey, you are in the worst position because you've never seen any of the previous episodes, previous seasons. You are going to be completely lost because this show does a horrible job of explaining who these characters are and why you should care.
Gotcha.
If you've never seen any of the previous seasons, you're going to be clueless. And there are going to be all of these references to things that have happened and to other characters that aren't seen on screen yet. Yeah, you'll be completely lost. Like
I've got it in my Netflix.
This character.
I just gotta go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go binge watch it.
Well, yeah, and like this character, Ernest Hazard Koenig. Koenig was a character, the Descendants guy. Eric Koenig, shows up in season 2 or 3. Triplets. They're or LMDs. We're never really sure, but when this character appears on screen for longtime fans, it's what? But for anybody else, they're like, okay, why is he significant? I don't get it. The other problem that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has, and this is a rare thing in television, and Eric, you'll probably be able to speak to this in general terms, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has these massive character arcs throughout the 6 previous seasons. These characters grow and change in such dramatic ways that the characters that we met in episode 1 of season 1 don't look anything like who they are by the time we get to season 7, episode 1.
With the exception of them being played by the same actors and actresses.
That's right. And for example, Daisy, who when we first met her was named Sky. Sky was a homeless ragtag computer hacker trying to expose the corruption of our government. She was a hippie chick living out of a van. By the time we get to season 7, episode 1, she's gone through S.H.I.E.L.D. training. She's got superpowers. She is a badass hand-to-hand combatant. She's a leader. She's like so far removed from who she was that if you only saw that first episode and you're coming into this episode, you're going to be like, what the hell has just happened? Agent Coulson is another one. He's gone through now. This will be his either 3rd or 4th iteration in the season. In the series, the 3rd. He's gone through having lost a hand and getting a bionic hand. He became the Ghost Rider for a period of time, and it's left it basically killed later on. He's died. Then his memories were imported into a duplicate dimension. He died, and now he's come back as a, spoiler alert, as a super advanced Chronicom LMD, life model decoy, with all of the powers and abilities that a LMD Chronicom has. And those are just 2 of the examples. Fitz is a character that they keep referencing through episode 1 of season 7. You never see him. And if you don't know who that is, you're going to be like, who the hell is Fitz? But one of the things I love about this show, Eric, is that one thing that is the problem, and that is the massive character growth and character arcs. Because we don't usually see that in episodic television. There are a few exceptions. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, for example, was the first Star Trek series that, the characters did not end at the same place that they started at the beginning of the episode. And that was kind of the hallmark of Next Generation, right?
Yeah.
You're going to make me go off another Battlestar Galactica rant, aren't you?
Okay.
One of the many reasons why I say that Battlestar Galactica, and I'm talking about the version, and I just had to bring it up on my computer here real quick to make sure I got the dates right. December 9th, 2003 to March 20th, 2009 is probably the greatest years on television in our modern era, if ever, because of this great TV show that was on the Sci-Fi Channel. It had a beginning, it had a middle, and then it had an end. And when it ended, that was it. That was it. They could have easily dragged on Battlestar Galactica for a couple of more seasons and just milked this cash cow dry, but they didn't. Ron Moore had a vision of actually telling an actual story. And all the characters, even minor background characters, had eventually a great, rich background stories, and that every character seemed to have an arch, or character arc, as it were. And so many other shows have tried to do the kind of serialized format, and nobody really did a really good job until Breaking Bad, which is now evolved into Better Call Saul, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't think of many other shows that have done such a great job doing an actual arc. DS9, Deep Space Nine, kind of did that to a pretty good extent with the last 4 seasons with Dominion more, but no season actually had, and I forgot to mention not Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was sort of like the template or the prototype for Battlestar Galactica. But I don't think that there's ever been a series that actually made you fall in love with flawed characters like Battlestar Galactica and broke your heart when some of them died. And that was the great thing about the show. Whereas it's like, if you loved a character, the chances are really good. The chances that you really loved these really good characters, chances are they might actually die, or something awful was going to happen to them, and you wish they died to get out of get out of their misery. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is sort of like, I know that people are probably going to pull their hair out when I say this. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is sort of like the Battlestar Galactica of the MC universe. It's not episodic television, it's serial television, and it takes place in the MC universe, but also kind of stands on its own. And all the characters have had really great storylines. The Coulson storyline, I think, is getting it's sort of wearing on me a little bit, because, like, for reasons that you just see, because he has such radical changes. But I think that some people are going to look at Agent Coulson as kind of like maybe the Brent Spiner Data of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because he just has that he has that sort of depth of character and that warmth and that tragedy to him that people just cannot help themselves but love. But I think it's brilliant storytelling. I think it's it's essential appointment viewing. The only problem that I have is that it was running congruently against or with Agent Carter. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of like took some of the wind out of Agent Carter's sails. Did I say that right, or did I say it backwards? I think that Agent Carter, if Agent Carter ran like at a different time, it's like if Agent Carter was just a summer series, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was your usual from the autumn spring regular season. I think Agent Carter.
No, that's what they did.
Sub 3 season. Yeah, they did. Okay, I just remember it.
Yeah.
Because, I worked.
Agent Carter was 8 episodes in between their hiatus.
All right.
Which
now I remember it differently. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're right. You're right.
But the thing with Agent Carter was not a lack of viewership, which ABC cited. The problem with Agent Carter was the lack of live viewership. When the show was being broadcast live, remember, we were still at the early days of streaming platforms. And ABC, they just could not get their hands around how many people were watching Agent Carter on demand instead of watching it, at its scheduled time slot. And that was the demise. And I think now that they understand how streaming really works and how to adjust for those ratings, it would be a different story. So Blake Wilson says DS9, Nog loses a leg. Horrible things happened there as well.
Oh yeah. No, I don't dispute that. But it didn't didn't become a serial until maybe after the fourth season or more during the fourth season. Give me a second here because there's something wrong with the story that ABC told about Agent Carter. And I'm looking up some dates here. I don't want to go off half-cocked.
And I'm the one who's here. No, that's all right. And I'm the one who's saying that they didn't understand streaming. They never said that.
Okay.
They just said that it wasn't getting an audience, that it wasn't the ratings. And my point is, based on social media buzz, that was absolutely false. People were watching that show and loving that show and loving her. They just weren't watching it on Thursday nights at 9:00. They were watching it on Hulu or whatever streaming platform they used to watch the next day or later that weekend.
One of the reasons why AMC's Mad Men was such an absolute total incredible hit, other than the fact that it had brilliant writing and it had brilliant acting, it was also one of the most streamed videos or TV shows at the time. And it ran from 2007 to 2015. Agent Carter ran 2015 to 2016. I think that there's an aspect of this. I'm going to be really controversial here. Shocker, I know. I think that ABC was afraid of having a lead female on one of their flagship shows, even though their flagship show was Agent Carter that played mostly during the summer. It was the summer series, as I remember now.
That's right.
I swear to God, if this show started in 2020 from scratch with a lead female character like Haley Atwell, and Haley Atwell, she's easy on the eyes. She's pleasant on the eyes. She's an incredible, strong actress, I believe. I believe she's a fantastic actress. I think some of the executives were afraid of having a lead female character because of the toxic fanboys. Toxic fanboys ruin everything. And so many people were whining and complaining about how toxic fanboys always seem to whine about the thing that they should be loving the most. Haley Atwell's character, Agent Peggy Carter, was an incredible character. She's probably the second best part of Captain America, the First Avenger. I think that she made Captain America a better movie.
I agree with that.
I'm sure that people.
Yep.
And the thing is that she wasn't a ditz, she wasn't a dingbat. She broke a lot of the stereotypes. Incredibly attractive and incredibly intelligent and incredibly brave. And I think that the executives at ABC got scared for reasons I Maybe they saw the blowback of other woke TV shows and movies that didn't do so well at the box office because thanks to toxic fans. I think they made it. I think that they made a horrible mistake because they were cowardly.
See, I don't remember there being any fan backlash to Agent
I remember
Carter.
there being backlash about other strong female characters on other shows. A few years ago. I don't know if I'm misremembering this again. I do remember that there were some people who were a little, but of course these are the same people who love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I believe. Sarah Michelle Gellar did a great job on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it was like it's feast or famine. They fanboys either love strong female characters or they don't. They run hot and cold. They're binary for some reason. And this could be just pure speculation on my part, but I think that they missed out on a gold mine.
Well, I agree that they did. But Corey, do you remember any kind of negativity from fans or friends that when Agent Carter was on? All I ever remember was seeing positive feedback.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I never heard anything personally, but that doesn't mean it's not there. There's so many media platforms or like forums and stuff that I don't go on that they could have been all over it and shoot them apart. I mean, we've seen it with Star Wars movies and strong female leads. Fanboys just don't like it.
And that's kind of where I was going next is that, hold on. I was hearing some weird noise. So
it's
the thing with Agent Carter
was
SUVs.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like people shouting. Is that your son's video game, Eric?
No. He's very, very quiet after I gave him the stern look.
I don't know. My kids are in the living.
Maybe it's the ghost in the machine.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at an article published January 19th, 2015, Agent Carter Backlash Against Sexism. I haven't read the entire article again. But I mean, the thing is, it's funny because you and I are from two different parts of the country. You may not remember there being any backlash. I remember a little. But I do remember the debate about how is it that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is okay as a strong lead female character, but Agent Carter wasn't. And again, I mean, we may actually have different memories.
So the backlash against sexism may actually have been true because of the way the male characters in authority positions treated the female character as a subservient, almost secretarial type character, and she fought against that stereotype and rose above it. And people who don't understand the value of that character arc and that overcoming that as part of the hero's journey might be offended. How dare they put something on TV where a man treats a woman like that?
Yeah. And so I think that I've never seen the backlash with it because I'm one of those people that if I like it, I watch it. I don't care what the critics said. I don't read the articles. If it's cool to me, I'm going to watch it. Damn everyone else. It's my thing,
Well, and for those of you who are interested, you can go back and listen to our podcast's Agent Carter Roundtables. We, me, Charles Cornell, and Daisy O'Dare, and Ken Sharkey, we got together every week after the episodes, and we dissected them, and we talked through a lot of these issues. So if this intrigues you, you can go back and listen to those older episodes here on the Dieselpunk podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can just do a search for Agent Carter Roundtable and find that. But we talked a lot about those issues and a lot about that character. And I think, Eric, why we've seen pushback on strong female characters in some franchises is because I want to say it is the Rey Skywalker effect.
Okay.
There was a little bit of it, but not until The Force Awakens and Rey did we see this massive misogynistic basement-dwelling backlash against a new character who was, and their problem with her really was kind of multifaceted, but basically they were like, she's a new character with no training and she's more powerful than Luke Skywalker. How dare they? You know? And that was kind of the thing.
It's scary how good you do that.
Yep.
It's part of my wizardly wizard powers. I'm a level 9 wizardly wizard. But you know, they and that carried over to some other franchises like Captain Marvel and you know, of course Brie Larson didn't help her case any by saying,
no,
this movie is not for 40-year-old white men. I don't care what you think. And that was taken completely out of context and yada, yada, yada. We can debate that all day. But I didn't see that kind of problem with Agent Carter. It wasn't guys that I saw the criticism coming from. It was those, you know, feminist corners that were saying, how dare they write a character or write a series where they, you know, portray those out-of-date mores, those out-of-date relationships between men and women. And I was like at the time, well, have you never seen Man? I mean, that's what they do. It's being historically accurate.
Most of those people that complain about that don't watch the series. They just see what it's about and see that there's, and so they see that, you know, she's being held down, she's being made to be a secretary, and they just throw a fit without watching the show and getting the full context of what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look at there. I just changed views, and now we can see right up Eric's nose. No, I'm going to switch that back. All right. I think you're right. I think you're right. But
I want, you know, because you had mentioned something else. It just came to my mind. Don't let me forget. There's something I wanted to address with you that you had mentioned in one of your daily drive videos.
Well, now is the perfect time because I think we're done with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I would just say for you diesel punks who love time travel adventures and superheroics, this season could turn out to be the best season yet, and especially for diesel punks, it is quintessential diesel punk. And when you finally get around to watching it, Eric and Corey, I think you will agree with that it is quintessential diesel punk. Go, Larry, or go, Eric.
Okay. You did a drive-in chat or drive time chat on Facebook Live.
Yep.
And you do it almost every morning.
Almost.
And you had talked about the conventions in the Nashville region being canceled because of COVID.
Yes.
Or that's the excuse that they're using.
Yes.
I know that we've spoken about this on other episodes of the podcast, and I'd like to actually do a much more in-depth version of this on the Fedora Chronicles radio show, audio only. So
sure thing.
One of the things that I was thinking about is that in the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s, or at least up until summer of 2001, conventions were incredible. And they were the thing. They were the cat's pajamas if you were a nerd, a geek, or a dork, and you were into pop culture, if you were just a guy, just a really good-looking guy with a goatee and glasses who wore a fedora, and you were looking for a place to hang out with other cool guys who were into sci-fi, pop culture, and stuff, conventions were where it was at. The problem with the conventions, somewhere in the early 2000s, they started to go downhill. And it got to the point where I had to actually stop going to them. It's also because I got married and I started having kids, and I couldn't justify leaving my family for a day and going to a convention, because a convention is no place for a newborn or a toddler.
Well, now let me stop you right there for just a minute, Eric, because I want you to clarify a comment there.
Right.
You said in the early 2000s, conventions started going downhill. Most people would argue with you that we were entering a golden age of conventions where the quality just continued to go up and up and up. So when you say they started going downhill, what do you mean specifically? How did they start going downhill?
I'm talking specifically the Northeast region, like the Boston area, the Boston, Massachusetts, Manchester area. There were a string of conventions. There were a string of conventions here in the Northeast where you had high-profile guests who didn't bother to show up. One convention in particular in Boston, Avery Brooks, for whatever reason, at the last minute, he canceled. Marina Sirtis, God bless her soul, got on an airplane, flew, and filled in for Avery Brooks at this Boston convention. It was one of the last ones I went to. Same thing happened when I cannot remember his first name. The actor who played Dr. Bashir, he didn't show up for the convention. I want to call him Neil Patrick Harris, who played Doogie Howser on Star Trek Voyager.
No, that's not Harris. Him.
I'm sorry, but you know who I mean.
Yes,
he showed up late for the convention for whatever reasons, probably the weather, those damn pesky weather balloons and swamp gas. And the conventions just started going downhill, at least here in the Northeast, especially like the creation cons and the franchise cons. They started to really go downhill. It got to the point where it's like I could not justify leaving my wife and my kids to go down and spend the day because it just wasn't worth it for me anymore. And your mileage may vary in other regions of the country. A lot of people, you just said that the 2000s was the heyday of conventions. When did they actually start to really suck, though? And I think that everybody can agree conventions went downhill within the past 5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I think.
Pardon me, had a little tickle. No COVID. Go ahead, pretty boy.
When the cons seemed to explode right after that sci-fi show, Heroes of Cosplay, and everyone wanted to all of a sudden cosplay. Like the first Wizard World we had in Nashville here, there were so many people there in store-bought costumes, which I have nothing against, but they had been watching the show, and a couple of the people from the show were at the convention, and that helped blow it up to where it was a trendy thing to do. And then once that show went off, it kind of collapsed back down. And I think that's kind of around here when it started to get really, really crappy.
Yeah, I would say that the bubble started to burst 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. 3 years ago is when Wizard World started having to pull out of cities. That's when Walker Stalker, there were two conventions owned by the same company, Walker Stalker and Fandom Fest, or Heroes and Villains, rather. And they had to combine them 3 years ago. They had been separate, then they had to combine them. And when they combined them, it kind of boosted it a little bit. But that's really when conventions started to see problems. They started to struggle. And the main thing was that hardcore fans, people that, I'm a real fan. I've been a fan since I was just a hatchling. Those guys hated the commercialization of fandom.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Yeah.
They still do. And then there's all of, with the commercialization, there are all these bandwagon fans who it's just the thing to do. Oh, but man, superhero, I love the MCU. Superhero movies are the thing to do. Oh my gosh, I can go see the guy who plays Rick on Walking Dead. I can go see Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I can go meet Yondu from Guardians of the. He was at every convention for like 2 years, and so there was this big interest in these celebrity conventions, and the problem with the celebrity conventions is that they're really expensive. So people might do it once, because you're paying $125 for a ticket for 2 days, and then autographs are, between $40 and $80 per picture, and it's expensive. And the people who are into cosplay, they don't spend money. They just go to walk around and have pictures taken to make a spectacle of themselves. And that's, I don't say that in a bad way, because that's what I do. But they don't spend money. And the people who are there that are spending money, they're spending money on autographs, and they're not spending money in the dealer room. And so the dealers aren't making money, and they don't want to come back. And so now the cons start struggling to finance their con because dealers don't want to be, and it just becomes this snowball effect. And basically, we started to see this year, and maybe last year to some degree, that a lot of these conventions that had been founded and created during the heyday, prior to 3 years ago, during this boom of conventions, started to see this sense that they were still continuing out of a sense of obligation.
Yeah.
The organizers of them felt obligated to the fan base, and the volunteer labor who were working these cons, they continued to do it because they felt obligated to the organizer. But I think what has happened in the last 3 years is a lot of those conventions, they've started losing money, and the organizers and the volunteers really don't want to do them anymore, but they felt that sense of loyalty, that sense of obligation, and all of a sudden, coronavirus comes.
Right.
And COVID-19 forces these cons to shut down. Postpone. Oh, we're going to postpone till later in the fall. Oh, no, we're going to have to actually shut down completely because the venue isn't going to be reopened. And I think a lot of those conventions are breathing a sigh of relief today. That they're saying, praise God, hallelujah. We didn't have to lose money again. We didn't have to go through this again. And now that it looks like it's going to be 2021, maybe 2022, before some of these cons will be allowed to come back, those organizers, those volunteers, and a majority of the fans are going to say, okay, that was fun. On to the next thing.
Right.
And so a lot of those conventions are never going to come back.
No.
Because they're just going to lose interest in the next 18 months to 2 years. And I don't think that's a bad thing, actually.
No, it's going to leave it for the hardcore people. The real true fans. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem that I had with the last couple of conventions that I went to, that there was no after-con activities. There was no after-con party. I think the second to the last one that I went to in Boston, the after-con parties were actually discouraged. And
Yes.
you're going to go to a convention and you're going to hang out with other nerds and geeks and dorks and pop culture fans, and you can't hang out at an after-con party. What's the point in going at all? Okay, you get to see Michael Keaton from Batman. Okay, then what? I mean, unless you're a diehard Batman fan or a diehard Johnny Dangerously fan, you're not interested in going to spend up to $200 to get a meet and greet with Michael Keaton. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted William Shatner's autograph, you could have gotten it by now. Same thing with Stan Lee. If you wanted Stan Lee's autograph before he passed away, you could have gotten it. It's the activities that went congruent with the cons as the cons were happening. Like,
okay, so
yeah,
let me address that real quick. So there are three types of conventions, basically. There's a corporate pop con or celebrity con. That's the Wizard Worlds, the Emerald City, San Diego Comic-Con, C2, E2 in Chicago. Those are the meet and greet, the celebrities get their autograph conventions. And typically those conventions don't have after-hour programming. Now, San Diego Comic-Con, C2, E2, that's pretty much a 24-hour event, so it doesn't really matter. Dragon Con is the same way. But that's the celebrity con. The other type of con there is the buying con or the sales con. These are the old school comic book conventions where you are going as a comic book collector, as a fan, to buy things that you either have been looking for or to see things that you've never seen before and will never see again. And then the third type of convention is the party con or the community convention. Dragon Con is one of those. It's a 24-hour party. Room parties, events, nighttime stuff. And there are a lot of smaller ones. We're going to one, hopefully, in October called HoloCon. It's a party con. It's got after-hours programming. There are room parties. But those cons are really created, run, and designed for the hardcore fans, not for the casual commercial fans. And so there's three different purposes and three different kind of cons. And with this bubble breaking, the big corporate celebrity cons will probably not come back. They're going to move on to other things. Some of the communications party cons will return, but a lot of them are breathing that sigh of relief. Because those are expensive to put on, and people don't come to spend money for those; they come to party. So the profit margin, if there is any, is extremely slim, because people are going to come to those party cons regardless of who the guests are. Nobody goes to those because there's this outstanding guest. That's just like icing on the top of the cake. The conventions that are going to survive are going to be the sales cons, the flea market cons, the swap and meets. The traditional old school comic cons are going to be back in a big way next year. But the other type of cons, the bubble is broke. And by the time they are able to come back, those people will have lost interest and gone on to something else. And I get a lot of heat for saying that. What's that, Eric?
No, they've aged out. Like myself, they've aged out.
Well,
I'd love to be able to bring my I mean, the thing is that it was just like, it's going to take a lot to get me back to conventions. Now that I'm going to be 51 in July, and I'm not trying to sound like an ageist, or I'm not trying to make myself sound too old.
Too late.
Like back in my day, when we had to drive our Chevy Chevettes to our convention, we didn't have no GPS. You had paper maps, and that's the way it was, and you liked it. I've been burned so many times by bad conventions. And on top of that, here in the Northeast, without mentioning any names, and this is not just in the Northeast, every region of the country has been rocked by allegations of malfeasance by convention planners, runners, producers, whatever you want to call them. And here in the Northeast, did we lose our buddy?
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah,
We'll see.
He left.
Okay.
That's all right. We're getting kind of late. Sorry, Corey, we lost you.
Yeah.
We love you, buddy. Thanks for being with us.
I think that the important thing is that for the community, is that if we actually want to see these conventions come back, I think we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to like reclaim them as they were. But I think that for a lot of old timers, I think that we're done. I think that people like myself.
So I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Yes, there are a lot of kids going to conventions, but in the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen more people our age than ever before. It's there is no longer this kind of age, not taboo, but age expectation anymore. And cosplayers over 40 are the big thing right now.
Sure they are.
And I think that's because Yaya Han turned 40.
Okay.
And so, it's still a big thing. But the fact of the matter is the big, huge corporate cons, the big, huge fan-based cons, I don't think they're coming back. And Corey just said the earbuds died and he got kicked out. So Corey's gone.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Eric, we commiserate about this a lot. And I'm sure we will get an opportunity to do so again.
Right.
But we've been doing this now for an hour and 23 minutes. And unless there's something else that you want to share with our viewers and listeners, I think we can probably call this a night.
Well, I feel bad. I feel a little bad because the thing is, I wanted to address what you had said in one of your drive-in shows. It's been weighing really heavy on my heart lately, and I've spent a lot of hours wondering what it would take to get me to go back to a convention. And not to drive the listeners away here. I would like to see conventions come back. Don't get me wrong. I would love to do live shows. I would love to do a midnight recording in front of a live studio audience, a paranormal episode of my podcast at a convention, like we were planning to do last year. I'd love to be able to do that.
And I still do.
Right. I'd love to be able to get back involved in the convention scene and go and just have a great time and commiserate with our people, as it were. And I'm sad. I'm sad to see it go. And I maybe have to get out of my comfort zone and go down to Nashville when things bounce back. And do a con with you. Leave the region.
Or not even come all the way down here. Just get out of your area. Go down to New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Maybe down to Virginia, and check out some of the things happening. Of course, nothing's going to happen until 2021. And so it's kind of a moot issue right now. But when they do start coming back, get out of your area and just go as an attendee and check out the new scene. Just say, you know what, this is a new adventure. it's a new start. Let's see what's out there.
Yeah. Bring my sidekick with me.
Hey,
like,
you know what? If you can get him interested in coming to a con, going to a con with your kid is a lot of fun. My son used to go with me to a lot of them when I was just kind of a solo act for the con scene. But now that I have a troupe, he's not as interested because he thinks that all those people are weird. And they are. But for those of you wondering, by the way, what I'm playing with during the show, I'm playing with this piece of rope, piece of yellow rope. And I've been practicing this thing. You ever see the old trick where they play the flute and the snake rises out of the basket and stays vertical like this?
Yes.
Well, that's one thing. It's a whole nother thing to make the rope rise out of the basket, and instead of going vertical, stay horizontal.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's just an illusion. It's just an illusion because as soon as I snap my fingers, it just goes back to being a little loop of rope.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I would really like to be able to get back into conventions again. And I think that I'm lamenting about a part of my youth that I feel might be gone for, it might be gone forever.
You know what? It's a completely different experience when you're an older adult.
Yeah.
You may enjoy it more.
I would like to believe so. I really do. I do. It's sort of like when you're like a diehard sports fan and you have a really used to follow this team or a band, like people who used to follow like bands, like a friend of mine from work tells me stories about a guy he knew who used to follow Gwar everywhere up and down the East Coast, and then all of a sudden it's like Gwar is no longer a band anymore, and it was like, oh, I can't follow Gwar anymore. What do I do now? And it's like it's melancholy. It's bittersweet. But the thing is that show that you did spoke to me, and I just wanted to let you know that I was thinking about what you said and how we could fix that. And I don't have the answers, but I think you do. I think that somewhere deep inside there, underneath that cap, you have the potential to find an answer.
Well, I do have some ideas, and but I'm not interested in being in the convention business of running them or producing them. If I were, I could produce a pretty killer con, but that might be a great name for a convention.
Killer Con.
The Killer Con.
You know what? Because there are a lot of people who are talking about doing a true crime convention. Here in the Northeast. So
wheels are turning.
Wheels are turning. Killer Con sounds like a great name. So think about it. So
we will.
And another thing I wanted to end the show with is that I don't always get to see your drive home or drive time shows, but when I do see them, they're always enjoyable. And I had the day off, and you didn't do one, and I was disappointed. So.
So I did not do one Monday, and the primary reason is I was just not in the headspace.
Right.
With everything going on with protests and riots, and we're not going to get into all of the politics of that. I just was not in a place to be lighthearted and fun, and even this morning when I did it. Yeah, it was pretty serious, and so that's kind of where I've been. I'll do one again tomorrow morning. You guys can tune in on my personal Facebook page. I had to, during the COVID-19 lockdowns, I started doing these live videos so that I would not be forced to listen to the radio and hear the news. It was just depressing me. And so I've continued that, and we'll continue it. For how much longer? I don't know. Until I don't have fun doing it anymore, and then I'll stop. But right now it's pretty fun, and you can tune in every morning. It's about 8:30 Central Standard Time. I do 30 minutes on my commute into work, and you guys can, converse back and forth. I'll talk about movies and TV and comics and toys and magic and all whatever strikes my fancy that I'm an expert at. And so and then of course, as we close out the show, Eric, it's a great time to promote our various projects. The League of Impossibilists is my original character cosplay group. We are retro punk, time-traveling paranormal heroes defending the space-time continuum against the supernatural forces of Cthulhu and his evil hordes. And you can become a sponsor, support the mission of the League of Impossibilists. And it just so happens we have a comic series that has just started hitting for patrons at patreon.com/impossibilists. So go check that out. And during the lockdowns for COVID-19, I started another new podcast, Eric. I rebranded my Tales from the Flip Side podcast and made a paranormal ghost stories podcast. And I'm telling real life historical ghost stories and my personal experiences and encounters with those real life spooks and specters. And that's called Tales from the Flip Side. It's on iTunes, Spotify. You can find that as well. So, and of course, live shows on the Dieselpunk podcast, the Bamboozlist. I'll do live magic, and you can check that out at Big Daddy Cool Shows here on Facebook. So that's what I do. I need a Girl Scout sash with all my badges.
Well,
I have the badges too. Actually.
Boy Scouts have the sashes, don't they? With their
they do. I think they do. And I have the badges. I had some custom badges made. I just need to get a sash made. So anyway, where can they find you, Eric?
You guys can always find me on the Fedora Chronicles. Just do a search for the Fedora Chronicles on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, you can find me at Fedora Chronicle. Always go to the main page, thefedorachronicles.com. And I do a weekly podcast with my buddy Jay. I've known him for more than 20 years. We do the Fedora Chronicles radio show, News of the Week with Jason Cousineau, where we talk about pop culture and current events through the perspective of film snobs and diesel punks, with topics ranging from true crime, government conspiracies and cover-ups, and the paranormal. I also do True Crime One-on-One, where I do interviews with fellow podcasters, criminal investigators, and survivors of crimes. And I'm also partnering up with a couple of people to highlight missing person stories. That's something that's really been very heavy on my heart lately. And I've done, like I said, I think I've done 6 episodes of True Crime One-on-One. And it's probably been some of the most rewarding work that I've done in the past couple of years. And it's something that I'm really excited about. I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish we didn't have unsolved crimes to podcast about. But my true crime pod family is incredible, very supportive. But you can just find me on Twitter and Facebook. Just do a search for the Fedora Chronicles. And thank you, of course, as always, John, for bringing us together. Thank you for being the glue that holds this Dieselpunk family together. We really appreciate it. At least, I appreciate you. And but
thank you. You're making me blush.
But you do. You're the gooey cheese that keeps our plate of nachos together. That's really what you are. Oh, you're a good man.
Look, I just do what I do because I got to.
You do. You do a good job. I do, and I'm
Thanks.
proud.
Thanks.
And I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud that you're a friend of mine. It's also late, and I don't want to leave because I have to concede the fact that I have to go to bed and get up tomorrow morning and go to work. So
yeah, that pretty much sucks. But
yep,
it's the rhythm of life. It's a powerful beat. Put the rhythm in your shoes, rhythm in your feet, something like that. That's a song from Sweet Charity. All right, well, let's say goodnight. Eric, thank you for joining me once again. And, of course, to Dark Soul and Corey, who have since dropped off. On behalf of Dark Soul, Corey Hillisheim, and Eric Fisk, this is John Pica saying, swing hard, swing often, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
good night.